Hello and welcome to the Hannah Judson Beat. Conversations about art, culture, and music, that's our jam. I'm Hannah Judson, and today's guest is internationally touring, renowned multi-genre musician, jazz educator, composer, and producer. Please welcome Suzahn Fiering, and also cast members of Bourbon on Broadway, which is her most recent production. So today with us, we also have Sean Williams, we have Megan Benjamin, and Thomas Dean Baker. So welcome, everybody. I'm really happy to see you. So my understanding is we are located around, we are in New Jersey, we're in New York, we're in Paris, France. Are we anywhere else amongst us right now?
Most of the actors are now in New York based.
Yeah. So that's where we are. So I'm always happy to see Suzanne and hear about her myriad of accomplishments. I just want to take 10 seconds to review. Suzanne, you've had such an illustrious career. You've done so many things, genuinely a Renaissance woman. You're a jazz guitarist and a band leader. You've played hundreds of shows globally. And that's actually where I first met you. I bumped into you in Paris at a project there. You've been viewed and heard by over 150 million people worldwide in radio and TV. You've written dozens of songs for film and TV, which have been played in over 40 countries. You've worked as an engineer and producer for top studios in New York City and Nashville. You've worked at the highest levels of entertainment, including with Paul McCartney, who has also presented you with an award in Liverpool. And you've worked in musical theater. You've also taught at HP Studios and at the Screen Actors Guild. Many things, but we're going to be getting back to the musical theater piece. That everything I just said is just sort of scratching the surface. We're actually here to talk about Bourbon on Broadway. So, Suzanne, to start with you, Bourbon on Broadway, how did this happen?
Well, I was very close with a former Hollywood star named Dawn Wells, who was Marianne on Gilligan's Island, who was an impassioned educator, acting teacher, and just a big supporter of the arts. She heard my music and basically kidnapped me. She was running a film institute out in Driggs, Idaho at the base. She had a ranch at the base of the Grand Tetons. And so I would go out and I would teach classes and I would play music. And we had a film festival and the red carpet and chocolate fountains. And every year there was a team of people that would show up. And so two of the people that would show up over and over, one was called Tom Fisher, who's now the Bourbon blogger, and the other is Will Swenson, who's now starring as Neil Diamond in the musical on Broadway. And so before COVID, way back in 2019, we had this idea that we would make, and we all loved bourbon. So we had this idea that we would create a musical based on the history of bourbon to help Tom's hundreds of distillers around the world promote their products, whiskey and bourbon. And it just grew into this massive thing. We were supposed to open in Nashville in early 2020. Then COVID happened. We were shut down 3 times. And then we were going to open in Nashville finally, where, of course, the bulk of the distillers are, in Nashville. And 2 days before our final dress, where we were going to do photography and videos and all that great stuff, the state of Tennessee passed an anti-drag law. The next day, my lead actor was forced to quit by his church. The next day after that, someone went into a school in my neighborhood and shot and killed 6 teachers and children. The next day after that, the governor relaxed the gun laws. The next day after that, 3 senators were evicted from the Tennessee state legislature. And then shortly after that, there was violence against queers and people in drag and everyone else. So that was it for me.
Yeah.
And I contacted a close friend in theater in New York. And 5 weeks later, we are opening. I moved the whole thing in 5 weeks. Costume sets, the whole 9 yards, casting, everything else to New York City. And we're opening Saturday, tomorrow. Yay!
Saturday, June 3rd. Where at
Saturday, June 3rd.
Mama.
At Don't Tell Mama, 343 West 46th Street, New York, New York. Make your reservation at www.don'ttellmama.com/shows and click on which of the 4 shows, 4 Saturdays in June, you would like to attend.
And we'll include all of that information also in the chat, so that we'll make that information available again. So Suzahn, that's quite a story, not story, but actual fact, moving from how the show was developed as sort of the seed idea, and then it got bigger and bigger, and then it found itself embedded in a historical moment in U.S. history taking place in Tennessee. And then the show has moved to New York, and so you have a new cast, and I'd like to ask the cast about your feelings about maybe the history of the show itself, as well as the history contained within the show. So it's a broad question, but would anybody like to start?
Deshaun, why don't you start?
Sure. Well, I think that the history of the show and what Suzahn had to go through in order to get the show into New York is absolutely disgusting, and all of the struggles that had happened in Tennessee that forced her to have to come to New York. That's absolutely disgusting. But I'm also very glad that one day before our opening, and just so exciting, and I'm so excited to bring this wonderful show to an actual audience so we could share the equality and all the messages that Suzahn has wrote in this show.
Yeah, and maybe you could speak just for a second to your part in the show as the only African American in the show, and what the historical and contemporary implications of that might be.
Yeah. I am playing William Craig, who is a slave to Elijah Craig, but Elijah Craig has taken the time he is a preacher, and he has taken the time to educate his slaves so that he can eventually free them and send them up north where they will be safe. And so William Craig has just been going through the struggles of being a slave, and the song "Free" that I get to sing in the show just shows how the pain and that he is going through, and he's saying that no matter where I go, no matter what I do, no matter what who I talk to, no matter what, until the color of my skin is not a sin, I'm never going to be free. It's always going to be a struggle for me.
Yeah, from the perspective of 1789, and here we are hundreds of years later, and
it's still a struggle.
That's right.
Yeah, hundreds of years later, and we're still struggling as African Americans and as LGBTQ people. It's a struggle around all the people. Any type of minority, it's a struggle for them.
Excellent. So, Henry, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having us on. It means so much. And happy Pride Month to anyone watching.
Yay!
Celebrate Pride, come see our little show. Yeah, this show, to me, feels so... I was shocked when I heard that all of the stuff that Suzahn had to go through just to get it off its feet and move it to New York, because to me it feels fairly welcome. It doesn't feel like it's imposing at all, especially it must be much different in Tennessee. It's shocking to me that they're even considering this to be something they're scared of or rejecting. We talk about cross-dressing. My character definitely not a drag queen, as much as I'd like him to be one. Barely cross-dressing. I'm wearing like a little lacy skirt, and I'm like, to have churches and to have whole groups so upset about something as small as that, I think it shows how much farther we have to come And if our little show does anything to change people's mind, I'm happy about it. And it does. It really speaks to a number of issues, like Deshawn said. And in just 55 minutes, we get it all in there. And I'm really glad that I'm part of something like this June.
Yeah, and the best part of it is that we get these messages in, but we sing and dance while we're doing it. And, say funny things and silly things and wear funny, silly things. And whoever wants to can drink bourbon along the way.
So that's an interesting aspect of it. I was going to ask, as Henry was saying, that it's shocking that any of this would be a problem. What's the vibe of the show? Suzann, you kind of described it a little bit.
Megan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would be fair to say there is one specific vibe of the show. Of course, it's really fun and it's really entertaining, but there's also a lot of heart to it and a lot of good messages about very important social issues too. One of the really interesting things about the show, which is why it's hard for me to pinpoint a specific vibe, is that all the songs are different styles of Broadway musicals. There's a Fosse number, there's a rap number, there's a number that's kind of a salute to Grease, there's a number that's similar to a song from The Music Man. So it kind of has something for everyone. But if there was kind of one general way to describe it, I would say fun and meaningful.
Oh, that's great. That's excellent.
And Thomas, what about you?
Yeah, I would say when I first entered the audition room and got this little slip of paper with the production details, it was wild to see the words like anti-drag because I'm from Arkansas, which is a border state to Tennessee. And for me as an artist coming from Arkansas, now living in New York the past 5 years, drag is something that I've recently discovered and explored this year. And I started performing drag in New York. So then to learn about, this legislation that is being enacted in a red state, if you will, a state in the American South, and then also the content of the show to be about this, it was all just okay, this is not too good to be true, but it's just something is here that I really want to be a part of in expressing this narrative, because like Henry was saying, it's so joyful. It's not imposing at all. And I think musical theater as an art form provides that. And I think
that's our job. Yeah, that's our job.
Yeah. And musical theater is not going to stop. This production is now in New York. We're in New York right now performing tomorrow. But there are other musicals that are going to continue to happen in Nashville, other Shakespeare plays that are going to continue to happen in Tennessee, which have a fluid gender identity. So I think it's just a really, conservatives are pretty very insecure right now about all of this. And it's unfortunate that they have to pass legislation. Which
there is a big pushback in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And, there are drag shows. There have always been drag shows. They will continue. Mm-hmm. But, for example, there's a Pride Festival every year in a suburb called Franklin, which is a historical town. It's where one of the most important battles in the Civil War took place, which the Confederates lost. It was a turning point. More people died one day in that battle than in the Civil War and the First and Second World War combined. And they always had a wonderful little Pride Festival. And this year, they decided to cancel the Pride Festival. So a private person with a farm is having it on their property. And the mayor gets on the television and says, well, I can't stop you from having this festival, but if there's one piece of bad behavior, I will go to my grave preventing a Pride Festival from ever happening in the town of Franklin again.
Wow.
That's the mentality. So there will be a Pride Festival. We will be in Nashville. The 3 Tennessee state legislatures who had their microphones cut off talking about gun issues and gay rights are back in the legislature, but it's still an ongoing battle. So, hey, I never set out to be anything but fun. There are 3 people who become friends in this musical, a housewife who becomes a feminist, accidental feminist, an enslaved person who becomes educated and emancipated, and Cousin Cornelius the crossdresser who becomes a fashionista in the barn in 1789. And, you know, our goal isn't to change the world. And since we're not in Nashville anymore, I think one of my goals as a director and a creator is to get people in New York and people visiting New York to understand the vital, important piece of information that voting in New York and standing up for this nonsense will affect change in the rest of the country. Just because we feel like we have more rights here doesn't mean that our rights are guaranteed forever in this country. And it's up to us as citizens of this part of the world to help our friends around the rest of the country. We are a unified country, and we have to remember that basically this is democracy and civil rights. So I'm now off my podium.
Well, thank you for that, Suzahn. So that really, you know, it's so interesting because everything you just said, you probably didn't have in mind when you first were batting around the initial idea for this show. It really is it really is a work in progress that traveled through time, and now it's traveled with this cast. And I would like to hear a little bit more from cast members. So, has there been anything enlightening about as you've started to dig into these topics? Are you seeing anything from a slightly different lens or using slightly different language? What's opened up for you? Megan?
Well, I just think it's interesting too, because with the whole history of how Bourbon on Broadway was rejected and now it's here in New York, you know, back in the 1700s, it's interesting because men wore makeup, they wore heels, they wore waist cinchers and all of that.
Wigs.
Exactly. So it's kind of funny that nowadays we're thinking that men performing on stage in drag is this outlandish, crazy thing. So it's kind of fun that we're doing a musical that does have that historical element and that it can all kind of tie together, you know? Stuff that's in this musical, yeah, it's poignant, it's relevant to the time period of the musical, but to now too. And I think for me, it's just interesting to make all those parallels and connections and to see that there are some things that unfortunately aren't that different, but there's also a lot of things that can change too. And there's hope for that.
Well said.
For me, I'll say the cabaret, like the way the show is written in this cabaret style, each cast member really gets their time to shine, which is so much fun because I get to be Elijah Craig in these first two scenes, but then I get to step in and dance in the background for Henry's song and for Deshaun's song. And that's so cool to lend this choreography and lend my body to support this cast member right in front of me, belting their heart out, which is so cool about the show because it's 55 minutes in and out, but we really all get a moment to shine and support each other in that. So I feel like we're all, only as we get through this run, are going to grow pretty close, and we're all supportive of each other in helping us deliver the best show possible.
Yeah, so what happens is, for example, Elijah Craig is, you know, a very straight character. He's a straight-laced guy with a good heart, but he's kind of like, you know, he's a very serious preacher, and he believes in emancipation and he believes in spreading the good word. But he's also a bit of a shark, a salesman, like a Harold Hill from Music Man, to make that point. And so so Thomas gets to go from playing this very straight-laced person to then putting on an apron and a wig and sunglasses and being part of a background dancer singing oohs and ahs in the fantasy of another song. And then he gets to come back on and look like he's a motorcycle guy from Greece. And then he gets to come back on and be in the choir in the background. And Megan does that also. So and Megan plays a million roles. Sometimes she's a woman, sometimes she's a man. So it's really funny the way this kind of cross-dressing, cross-character, multi-use characterization happens throughout the play. I guess that was a little too much for folks in Nashville. But for us, it's just, it's just fun and every part of every day.
Nice. So, Henry, did you have something to add?
Yeah, totally. I would say, can you hear me? I put earbuds in.
Yeah.
You can still be great. I would just add that something that I wasn't perhaps expecting when I walked into the room and first auditioned, I certainly thought we were going to get great folk music and a folk-driven score, which you can expect. But we've got all these songs, like Megan mentioned a little bit earlier, we've got all these songs that draw in different elements of, classic Broadway history. And if tourists are coming into town and want a great place to hear sort of a classic review, but with this heartfelt storyline, this is a great show for that. And if you like Bourbon, there you are. And my character sings sort of a very classic, 11 o'clock Broadway number towards the end of the show when he's sort of discovering all this about himself. And there's other numbers that are, 50s, doo-woppy, and we've got all these sort of crazy things that somehow fit together in this magical little show.
That's lovely. That sounds so interesting. I can't wait to see the show. It might not be this weekend, but I'll see it.
Yeah, it's a tough commute from Paris to New York.
Yeah, so speaking of the range of songs, can anybody hum a tune or share a little bit a cappella what's going on in the show?
Or they can play tracks in the background if it works. Who's brave enough? I know Deshawn did it last time. You want to do it again?
I can.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Why not?
Let me see. I remember last time the music wasn't loud enough, so let me try and fix that for y'all.
Yeah, so even though your earbuds are in.
Yeah, my earbuds are connected to my laptop, though. So
okay, that's good. So hopefully it'll sync up. The music won't be out of sync, but we'll give it a shot.
Okay.
So this is a song that Deshawn sings after Frances, the lead character. They become fast friends. Deshawn helps her save the farm after Elijah gets arrested. And the two of them kind of become buddies. And they're starting to drink bourbon. They're getting a little drunk. And Frances says to Deshawn, I'm going to set you free. What will you be? And he, of course, has lived his whole life in captivity, horrendous captivity. And so he says to her, I really appreciate what you're saying. But like Deshawn said earlier, this is his big moment to realize that even if he is emancipated, until the color of his skin ain't no sin, he will never be free. And so he goes through this, I've got 60 minutes, soup to nuts, introduce a character, have a conflict, resolve the conflict. And Deshawn just nails it in 3 minutes.
Thank you. All right, are y'all ready?
We're ready. Let's make sure we can hear the track first.
Yeah, here, we'll play it real quick.
Okay, turn it down a little bit, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
You can break the chains that cruelly bind, but it won't stop the pain or the problems we may find until the color of my skin ain't no sin. Then people that look like me will live a life of misery. I've waded in the waters, I have fallen to my knees like a lamb led to slaughter. We have all been deceived until the color of my skin ain't no sin. And people that look like me will never, never be free. Maybe in 500 years, the greed that feeds the need will disappear. But something tells me it is now ingrained in the hearts and the minds and generations in time. The hatred will remain. I'm grateful for the living I have here with you. I know what you're giving is the best that you can do. Until the color of my skin ain't no sin. And people that look like me will never, 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 ever be free. So please don't ask me to believe that we will ever, 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 ever be truly free.
That is Deshaun Williams, y'all.
So Deshaun, I have to say, we're live streaming. It's not the optimal circumstance to be performing music, and wow, you came through the internet. That was,
Thank you.
Your strength, your range, the power that you're putting into your singing. Wow, what a voice!
Yeah, and thanks to Suzahn, I have such a wonderful song to be able to express all of that through.
It was so funny. I feel sorry for all my Black friends in New York. If you're African American and you're on faculty somewhere, if you're a singer-songwriter, no matter who you are, my ex-boyfriend, I found you, I hunted you down, and I played that song and said, "Is this okay?" Here I am, this middle-aged white woman trying to write this song. So, it took a village, and then it took Deshaun Williams to show up in my life and just give me the affirmation that it really does, it does work, and that we are all one family. That's who we are. Yes. So namaste, Mr. Deshaun.
Yeah, so thanks for that. So just for anybody who's jumped in and is viewing now, we're talking about Bourbon on Broadway. It's opening tomorrow night at Don't Tell Mama in New York City. There's information in the chat about how to get tickets. It sounds like an event not to be missed. The event, the show itself is historically based and so interestingly wrapped in a moment of American history. So it's sort of rolling out at the same time. A story within a story. So anything else?
I do have to say do a little bit of administration here. So unfortunately, we don't have pre-ticket sales. We have reservations. So you can go online or you can Google Don't Tell Mama and call and make your reservation or just show up. But it is a cash business. So tickets are $30 and there's a 2-drink or $20 minimum, cash only. Although I'll have plenty on hand and you can Venmo me later. So that's it about that. And 4 shows on Saturday nights. Tonight at 8 p.m., next week at 6 p.m. The following week is a matinee at 2 p.m. and then our last week is 8 p.m. We will be running continuously on the weekends into the future. And of course, we'll be bouncing up and doing a lot of corporate events and hopefully road traveling and maybe some LORT work for you actor folks. So that's my administrative pitch. Mm-hmm. does somebody else want to maybe sing some? Is that okay, Hannah, or do you want to ask more questions? Or
Yeah, I've got tons more questions, but Thomas, were you when we first talked about singing? I thought you were about to like raise your hand that you would offer a song. Is that true?
Oh yeah, I was gonna offer a song.
Oh, would
What
you?
is this magic elixir? Yeah.
so I'll give you a little intro. So at the beginning of the show, Thomas is the main character who comes on stage, and he's leading his congregation. And he knows he's about to get arrested, and he needs the support of his congregation. And so he's trying not to get frustrated. And he finds himself getting frustrated. So it's musical theater. We have the magic of upstage, downstage. And so he walks downstage and takes out his flask and says, "This will calm me down." And he takes a sip. At this point, it's not bourbon, it's whiskey. And so that's where we are in the show when he sings this really so well. When he sings this song, he sings it so well.
Okay.
So let's try and get the level on the track first.
Sure.
The track is a little bit loud.
A little bit loud.
And this song is a throwback to Evan Hansen, the score of Evan Hansen.
What is this magic elixir? It stings as it passes my lips. It's an emotional fixer. It calms me with very few sips. It's the gift that keeps on giving. What a way to make a living. So friends and foes all buy it. Yes, everyone must try it. Whiskey, a new paradigm. This magic elixir of mine. Whiskey's the water of life, made from a mashup of grains. I love it as much as my wife. She loves the capital gains. It's an American sensation. Who needs the Queen's libation? I hope the feds won't seize us, and we won't be found egregious. Whiskey, a new paradigm. This magic elixir, emotional fixer. It's making me richer. This magic elixir of mine.
That is, again, like what I was saying to Deshaun, like you are just absolutely, your presence is wonderful.
Thanks.
That was beautiful, even through the internet. That was great.
That means Deshaun and I are doing our jobs then.
Fingers crossed. We all are.
That's true.
So we're actually kind of on a roll. Does anybody else feel like singing, sharing a piece?
Henry. Henry. So
Let me see if I
Megan,
can get a track to work.
so we have a running joke. While you're doing that, I will fill the time. So Megan speaks French very well. And of course, Hannah is fluent because she lives in Paris. And I am always a lifelong student of French. And Henry doesn't speak any French, but he has a talent for the world's worst and hilarious French accent ever. So it's our running joke in the cast. So we're calling him Henri.
That's me. I'm going to try to de-pair my headphones. I think that'll give you the best chance of hearing me.
Okay. So this, I'll warm you up while you're working on that. So what happens is it's three buddies. It's really like Hope and Bing and an extra friend that meet in the barn, that bond over basically their their tribulations from that time period. The feminist, the enslaved person, and the cross-dresser. And so each finds acceptance because they're being heard. And so this is cousin Cornelius, the cross-dresser. He gets discovered behind the barn, basically in a pink tutu. And he's brought inside the barn, and he basically tells his story through this song. Was that enough lead time, Henry?
Close to enough. Yeah, here we go.
So let's get the track right first, okay?
It's as loud as it goes. How's that?
Move it a little closer to the speaker.
Can you hear?
Turn the back of the phone to your computer where the speakers are. And
I'll
move it
connect
down.
with that.
What's that?
I'm just going to connect to a Bluetooth speaker so quick for us.
Oh, that's really good.
Let's see.
So when Henry is discovered behind the barn, Frances, who's not joining us, the character Frances, Abigail Brooks can't join us today, but she and Deshawn, who plays William, discover cousin Cornelius in the back of the barn and drag him in to the barn. And that's where the cross-dressing commences. Well, there's a little before our gorgeous and talented Thomas does a little for us, and Megan cross-dresses as a man. But this is the big one, the big offensive one.
Righty, I think we've got it. How does this sound?
I'm down a hair bone now.
There we go.
That's good.
I'm gonna give you the first half, and you'll have to come see the show for the second half.
Oh, come on. You got to have your big finish.
Okay. I'll give it all to you. Not sure how I ended up in this mess. A farmhand in lace and a ruffled dress. I try so hard to fit in with the rest, but my lingerie is a bit of a thread. And the track stopped playing. I like working hard and breaking a sweat. It's not a life that I regret. But in crinoline and silk, I tend to forget. It's a dangerous, 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 dangerous game of roulette. So I dream of the catwalks in Paris, while my schemes shimmer by on an heiress. On the bell of the ball, you can bet. Oh, what a bet! With champagne and confetti, oh, where my favorite teddy. Maybe I'll do something I regret, 'cause the world ain't ready for me yet. Our class and style, such a terrible crime. Sewing poetry into every hemline with fuchsias and blues, an occasional line. My passion for fashion just can't be denied. So I'll dream of the cats in Paris while my steam shimmer by on an heiress. I'll be the belle of the ball. You can bet. Oh, what a bet! With champagne and confetti. Oh, where my favorite's teddy. And maybe I'll do something I regret, 'cause the world ain't ready for me yet.
Woo!
Fab. That was really great. That was wonderful. So again, wow, your presence is amazing. What a cast you put together, Suzanne.
Tell me about it. Unbelievable. Each
Conrad-
one of them, when I got 200 submissions for this show. I spent 8 hours going through watching every video because I knew I had to get it right. And each one of these actors, I had different people in mind in my head, but each one of these actors walked in, and at some point during that audition, I went, holy shit, this is it. This is it. So I just got very, very lucky. Those of us that have done a lot of casting and directing and doing shows in the past, we just dread it. We just go into each audition hoping for magic. We don't always find it. And it hit me 5 times. I got hit with magic, and it's this cast to Bourbon on Broadway. Each one of them has a brilliant career ahead of them.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can see that. But I think we're going to wrap up in a minute. But before that, Megan, is there something that you can share with us?
I mean, I don't have a full song. I just sing a lot of backup on songs. So
yeah, the next show I'll write something for you. You'll get a big number in the next show.
I just didn't want to leave you out. So okay, that's interesting. So, well, could you give us like a little portrait of maybe your favorite moment in the show?
Okay. This may not be my favorite moment, but I think it's a good moment from the show. Let me show you how to taste it. Lord, you've got to do it right. Trust me, you don't want to waste it. Bourbon's gonna get you high tonight.
Yeah. What you could play is pick a verse at the end of Bourbon, oh Bourbon for your that solo bit.
My speakers aren't working today.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, Megan and I, we kind of do a duet at the beginning of the show. I do like this rap thing. That's our Hamilton piece. Lin-Manuel Miranda, I love you. We're opening on the same street as Hamilton, by the way.
Okay, so excellent. Tell us one more time about where you're opening, when you're opening, and how you're opening.
Okay, we're opening every Saturday night in June. Tomorrow is our first show, June 3rd. Go to don'ttellmamanyc.com/shows to make your reservation, cash only. We'll be in the bigger theater. It's an 80-seat theater down on the right. We are on West 46th Street, literally steps away from Broadway, and on the same, just a block down from Bad Cinderella in Hamilton, which is a thrill. And my friend Will is starring in a show just a couple blocks down from there. And 343 West 43rd Street, there's a gazillion trains, easy to get to. Come see us, come support us. And most importantly, you're supporting. I mean, how lucky are we? We get to open in Pride Month. That's really what we're about. The human connection, through love, laughter, and acceptance.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming to my show and joining me today, Suzanne and Megan, Deshawn, Thomas, and Henry. It was really, really nice to meet you all right now, and I hope to see you all again on stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A bientôt.
A bientôt.
Bonne soirée.
Thanks. Bye.